Have you guys heard the term government cheese? If you don't know, government cheese, it's like this big block of cheese the U.S. government distributes to families or people in need through like government food programs. What about, have you heard of government butter? I know some of you have. There was a rumor going around in middle school. If you rubbed government butter on your thighs, your butt, and your boobs, it would make it all grow. Anyone else? Was that you too? Anyone else? I hope one person out there knows what I'm talking about. Anyways, government cheese, it's made out of all that stockpiled cheese that the government bought in 1973. So, Ronald Reagan. I have a lot to say. The first thing I'm going to say is, I want to do a Dark History episode on Ronald Reagan. Side note, I know, sorry. But did you know Nancy Reagan had the nickname Throat Goat? Throat Goat. Apparently, let me know if you want a dark history story. I'd love to do it. I know too much. So, when Ronald Reagan became president in 1981, he started to publicly distribute cheese, the government cheese. I mean, he was like, we have so much cheese, we need to get rid of it. So, cheese was being pushed onto people through like food stamp programs, the elderly, school cafeterias, prisons. I mean, anywhere they could think, have our cheese. Have our cheese. We have too much cheese. It was used in military kitchens and given out in like these big blocks to food banks and churches. Now you might be asking yourself, where are they storing all of this cheese? You know? Doesn't it need to be refrigerated? Where are they putting the cheese? They got a lot of it. Where is it hidden? I have to give the government credit for their creativity because they decided to put all of that cheese in caves. Yeah. Literal underground cheese caves. What? Yes. It sounds fake, right? It sounds like a weird conspiracy theory your uncle would bring up at like Thanksgiving or something. Have you guys heard about the underground cheese caves? Like, shut up. What are you talking about? But it's real. So now you're going to be the crazy uncle at Thanksgiving dinner. Thank you. You're welcome. Pull this one out. Your next dinner party. Have you guys heard about the underground cheese caves? So these cheese caves are located hundreds of feet underground in Missouri. And it's not like the cheese is just like dumped inside a bunch of random rocky caves. At one point, these caves were actually limestone mines. So the government then converted them into like a 3.2 million square foot warehouse. It's so big that it can fit like 1.8 million people inside these caves, or like 1,280 Taco Bell restaurants. What I'm getting at is it's big. And why did the government pick these like old limestone mines? Climate control. These caves are naturally kept at a cool 36 degrees year round. And guess what? These cheese caves are funded by the government, right? So who funds these big cheese caves? The taxpayers. We're paying for cheese caves. And with that in mind, we should demand free tours. I'm funding your cheese cave. Let me see what's inside. If you have a cheese cave hookup, let me know. Even though this cheese was literally being handed out for free, the government, they just had so much of it, they couldn't get rid of it. They're like, please take our cheese. Please. The Clinton administration created Dairy Management Incorporated, or DMI. So, weird. It's like a weird move. Why? I guess the whole point of DMI was to get Americans to consume more dairy, you know, because they got a lot of it. So they need people to fucking eat the fucking dairy. It was created for, quote, dairy product promotion, research, and nutrition education as part of a comprehensive strategy to increase human consumption of milk and dairy. Wow. This is like the National Dairy Council 2.0, except this time they have billions of pounds of cheese to get rid of. DMI is funded by the government, and they have like a budget of $140 million a year, just strictly for, you know, promotion of dairy. And you know what? We're all very familiar with DMI's work, the Got Milk campaign. That was them. So they were telling the public that milk was part of a healthy diet, that it was rich in calcium, and that it would build strong bones. Kind of going back to the classic, right? The classic tales. So they're making all these claims, right? So then in the late 90s, Harvard actually did a study on the factual health effects of milk. Finally, someone is coming through with a study. Now, their study from Harvard, they found that drinking milk didn't actually help prevent osteoporosis. This is a disease that can make your bones brittle, make you weak, and allegedly, milk was claiming that it could help cure this. Turns out it didn't. In fact, the study found some downsides of drinking milk, like a higher risk of prostate cancer, Parkinson's disease, acne, and even iron deficiency, which is so weird because I always thought milk was good for someone who had an iron deficiency. The Department of Health and Human Services wanted to fact check Harvard, okay? So they did their own study. They do their study, blah, 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 blah. Turns out, according to them, it was true. Milk or dairy was actually not very healthy to consume on a regular basis. Oopsie. Don't tell anyone, you know? On top of that, in their study, they found out that 36% of Americans were lactose intolerant. So they're like, oh shit, whoops. Yeah, which means their body literally cannot handle dairy, and it's actually bad for them to consume it. But like I said, the government was backing big dairy. So yeah, these studies came out, but like, did you ever hear about it? No, right? Did you hear about it? No, I always heard about how dairy was good, right? So they squashed that. They're like, shut the fuck up. At the end of the day, the government still had a shit ton of cheese to get rid of. So they're like, you better shut up until we get rid of this cheese, and then you can talk with your studies. Which brings us to fast food. Have you ever wondered why there's so much cheese in fast food? No, you haven't? Well, pay attention, because when you go to fast food, there's cheese on everything. They cheese everything, right? The other day, you know what I did? I treated myself. It was about 12:30 a.m. Yeah, I might have smoked a little bit of the devil's lettuce. Okay, I was feeling a little hungry. You know what I did? I went on Postmates, so sorry. DoorDash. I like DoorDash. Whatever, doesn't matter. I went on there and I ordered Jack in the Box. I'm getting wet. Because have you had their tacos? Jack in the Box monster tacos are the shit. Not sponsored. I'm so sorry I'm promoting terrible food, but I love their monster tacos. Anyways, they came out with these little mini versions of the tacos with cheese all over it. And baby, listen, it was like 1 a.m. and I was just like, while watching Swan Princess. I was watching Swan Princess. Do you remember that movie? Well, we can talk. We can discuss later. Great movie. Cartoon? Loved it. So, cheese. Have you ever wondered why there's so much cheese in fast food? Well, I have 3 words for you. Dairy Management Inc. DMI. Yeah, it's all government cheese, baby. So, Taco Bell specifically, they got hit first with the government cheese. The Taco Bell cheesy crust, the double steak quesadilla, the 7-layer burrito, the soft potato tacos. All of these items were specifically added to Taco Bell's menu because they partnered with DMI and were given tons of government cheese. Yeah, I was like, what? I guess that makes sense. And I know what you're thinking. Why would Taco Bell, do the government a favor? Well, it's free cheese. These super cheesy menu items actually boosted Taco Bell's sales, plus they helped dairy farmers and the government at the same time. It was a win-win. And Taco Bell wasn't alone. So DMI, they went out to all the hits, okay? They went to Wendy's, they went to Burger King, they went to Pizza Hut. They're like, hey, we got some cheese for you. You want to use it? We got cheese. Around 2009, another American favorite was added to the list. Domino's. Domino's in 2009 was in a really bad spot financially. And they were just not doing well. So guess who came knocking on the door? Hi. We're government cheese. And we're here to save your ass. Okay, so according to the New York Times in 2010, Domino's got a much-needed rebrand. There was huge marketing campaign. Domino's was everywhere. It was all over the place. And it was all created and funded by DMI. The government paid literally $12 million for Domino's to rebrand and use their cheese. I know. Make it make sense. There's a missing piece here, huh? Well, part of this rebrand included reformulating Domino's pizza, their recipe, to contain 40% more cheese, And then Domino's launched an advertising campaign that was kind of crazy. They threw themselves under the bus. They acknowledged just how bad their old pizzas were and promised customers they were going to do better. They promised them new pizzas with, quote, cheese, cheese, cheese in the new recipe. So according to the New York Times, this worked out really well for DMI. Because them pushing dairy through fast food ended up boosting cheese sales by nearly 30 million pounds. So government cheese is everywhere at this point. It's at school, it's in your fast food, it's everywhere, But as good as the pizza bailout was for Domino's, it was actually really bad for us. Apparently, just one slice of their new pizza contains 2/3 of a day's maximum recommended amount of saturated fat. And saturated fat is directly linked to heart disease. Dr. Walter C. Willett, chairman of the nutrition department at the Harvard School of Public Health, said, quote, "A small amount of cheese can be compatible with a healthy diet, but consumption in the U.S. is enormous and way beyond what is optimally healthy." Before the cheese lovers come for me, I'm talking specifically about this cheese that the government is giving us. You see, this cheese is old, and it needs a lot of preservatives in order to not go bad. These preservatives contain a high amount of sodium. Plus, there are a ton of additives, chemicals, in government cheese that just aren't in natural cheese. It was actually discovered that something called forever chemicals were present in DMI's government cheese. Ooh. This is a callback all the way to our very first Dark History episode with DuPont. Remember? Tell me you saw that episode. That was such a good episode. DuPont had this whole scandal with forever chemicals, and they're in your body right now. I'm sorry, you have forever chemicals in you. But the cheese from the government has forever chemicals in them. Look, these chemicals are not great for us. They've been linked to a ton of health concerns, cancer, you name it, it's linked to this. So let me get all nerdy. Part of this is because something called bovine growth hormone, or BGH, is used in a lot of American dairies. Basically, farmers use this stuff to help cows produce more milk than they would naturally. They're treated with it, so it must be like a shot or something. The problem is cows treated with BGH are more likely to have health problems like udder infections, reproductive issues, and just shorter lifespans in general. If a cow does get an infection, they have to be put on antibiotics, which ends up in your milk. So for humans, BGH increases the risk of cancer. Some scientists are also nervous that if humans keep drinking milk from cows that are on antibiotics, it will gradually make us more resistant to the antibiotics that we take when we get sick. They say that about chickens too. I think, did we mention that in our Tyson episode? Jesus, Bailey. Just coming in with all the dark history greats. Yeah, they say this about chickens too, because they give chickens antibiotics and we eat it, and then, it's just it's a problem. The worry is that this will eventually create superbugs. In other words, bacteria that just cannot be killed by antibiotics. Now, despite all of this, there are currently no federal guidelines controlling how many of these chemicals end up in our food. BGH is FDA approved, eye roll, and legal in America. But you know where it's not legal? Basically everywhere else, okay?